They told me to get lost because I'm a fat, ugly high school dropout, then poured beer on me. Who in the world had the audacity to hurl such insults at my wife, Emily? Emily began to explain the situation. It was Ryan. Ryan? Ryan was the classmate she had been worried about before attending her reunion. I had thought he might have mellowed out a bit as an adult, but clearly, that wasn't the case. So that guy is still pulling the same childish harassment. Emily gave a small nod. A surge of anger toward Ryan boiled up inside me. Don't worry, Emily. I had been aware that Ryan might show up at the reunion. And I had already prepared a plan in case something happened. I called Ryan. He picked up immediately. Considering my status, his quick response was only natural. Well, Mr. Johnson. What brings you to call at this hour? I told him exactly what he didn't know. The $600 million project is off the table, Mr. Carter. My name is Kevin Johnson, 35 years old. I work at Anderson Holdings. Our company handles wholesale food distribution and operates retail stores within the group. At headquarters, we establish business strategies for these stores, plan promotional campaigns, and manage overall operations. The company has an annual revenue of $1,000 million. If we successfully complete our current nationwide project, our profits will increase even further. This deal involves a significant amount of money. That's why, until the project is fully on track, I personally oversee the negotiations as the company president. Despite working at such a major corporation, I only graduated from middle school. It was because my parents passed away when I was young. It was an unforeseen accident, something no one could have predicted. I never imagined things would turn out like this. After losing my parents, I was placed in a foster care facility. My world had changed overnight, leaving me lost in grief over my parents' sudden death. I was depressed for a while, but staying stuck in sorrow wouldn't change anything. As time passed meaninglessly, I forced myself to move forward. So, I decided to continue attending school. Just like before. However, I quickly learned that society often treats underprivileged children harshly. I heard you don't have parents. The one who said that to me, as I showed up in worn-out clothes, was none other than my classmate Ryan. Well, must be tough, huh? I can't even imagine living like that. Poor thing. Ryan was the worst kind of middle school bully, always picking on weaker classmates. I don't remember exactly what triggered his harassment. Was it when he found out I lived in a foster care facility? Or was there some other reason? I can't recall the details, but one thing was certain: Ryan, who was the class leader, had made me his target. His relentless bullying wore me down day by day. Now, where could your textbook have gone? Ryan, you better find it soon, or tomorrow's lessons are going to be tough for you. Having my belongings hidden, being forced into activities I didn't want to do. No matter how much I want to forget those days of harassment, they remain burned into my memory. Memories of bullying never truly fade, and they lurk in the back of my mind, ready to surface and torment me at unexpected moments. At this rate, I had no motivation to go to school anymore. On top of that, since I had no parents, I wanted to start working as soon as possible and become independent. In my third year of middle school, I told the staff at the foster care facility, "I'm done with school. Kevin, I'll start working after I graduate middle school." Maybe because they knew what I had been going through at school, the staff didn't try to talk me out of it. After graduating, I started working. My first job was at a convenience store. I chose it simply because I often went there and was familiar with the place. Starting today, you're part of the team. Yes. I'll do my best. Up until then, I had only been a customer, stopping by to grab a drink or snack. But working there as an employee was far more demanding than I had imagined. Even so, I did my best to learn everything my manager, David, taught me. I threw myself into the job, determined to do well. After completing my probation period smoothly, I felt like I was finally getting the hang of things. I was at the counter, handling some paperwork. That's when I saw a customer slip a product into his pocket. I reacted immediately. "Excuse me, sir, please wait a moment. TCH. The man tried to bolt, but I didn't hesitate. I pressed the emergency call button. Then, I ran outside and memorized his car license plate. His theft would also be recorded by the security cameras. With all this evidence, it was only a matter of time before the police caught him. Sure enough, he was arrested not long after. A few days later, an elderly man who had apparently witnessed the whole thing approached me. That must have been quite an ordeal for you. He was a regular at the store, often coming in to buy cigarettes. It seemed he had been there that day as well. I heard the shoplifter got caught here the other day. You saw what happened?" "Yeah." The alarm went off, and it really startled me. Then, he gave me a knowing smile. It might sound inappropriate to say this, but it's not every day you get to witness something like that. It was quite an experience. Honestly, it was my first time dealing with a shoplifter, too. "Is that so?" He nodded, looking impressed. To be honest, I hadn't expected myself to react so quickly that day. Why was I able to handle it so decisively, despite it being my first time? Maybe it was because of my sense of responsibility and dedication to my job. Thinking that way gave me a little confidence in myself. You've got guts. So why are you just working a part-time job at a convenience store? Guts, huh? Yeah. You're bold and quick-witted. I bet you could excel at something far greater than this. It seems like a waste for you to spend your time on a mere part-time job. His words were so unexpected that I was caught off guard. But even if I had guts, landing a good job wasn't that easy. In this world, without an education, it's nearly impossible to land a well-paying job. And depending on the circumstances, finding any decent employment can be completely out of reach. It's not really an interesting story to tell. If you don't mind, I'd really like to hear it. Seeing how insistent he was, I figured, why not? At that moment, there were no other customers in the store. I could afford to chat a little while stocking shelves. So, I told him about losing my parents and how I started working to support myself. He listened quietly, attentively. His genuine interest encouraged me to keep talking. Maybe, deep down, I had been longing for someone to listen to my messed up past. Then, he made an unexpected offer. "In that case, why don't you come work for me?" "Ha! I can guarantee you better pay than a part-time job." Actually, let me introduce myself properly. His business card had his name as George Anderson. Apparently, he was the president of Anderson Holdings. Even someone as clueless about the business world as me had heard of that company. I was stunned. Why would the president of such a major company offer me a job? Why, me? I just think it'd be a waste for someone with your dedication and work ethic to remain stuck in a part-time job. So, how about it? Would you like to put your talents to use at my company? It sounded unbelievable. I stared at the business card, trying to process it. If I could, I'd say yes right away. But I held myself back. There was no way to confirm that he was really the president of Anderson Holdings. Business cards can be faked, after all. I forced myself to think rationally and gave the best response I could at the moment. Would it be alright if I gave you my answer later? Of course. If you're interested, just call the number on the card. I'll be waiting. With that, he simply bought his pack of cigarettes and left. As soon as my shift ended, I rushed back to the foster care facility and examined the card again. Then, using the only computer available there, I looked up Anderson Holdings. When I checked the company's website, I found his photo. George was listed as the president and CEO of the company. I was shocked to realize that he was truly the president of Anderson Holdings. There was no room for doubt anymore. He had genuinely scouted me for a job at Anderson Holdings. A future spent working part-time at a convenience store wouldn't get me anywhere. Even if I started at the bottom, joining a major company was the smarter move. I made up my mind I would work at Anderson Holdings. On a day off, I gathered my courage and called Mr. Anderson. My heart pounded with nerves. Would I be able to speak properly? Would I leave a bad impression? "Hello, this is Kevin." "Oh, Kevin." Feeling like my life was about to change, I took a deep breath and gave him my answer. "I'd love to accept your offer." "I see," he said, sounding pleased. "I've been waiting for this call." "Welcome aboard." From there, things moved forward quickly. I visited Anderson Holdings headquarters for the first time and had a meeting with the HR department. At the beginning, I was assigned to general affairs, where my tasks included cleaning, making tea, and handling miscellaneous duties. Determined to prove myself, I worked hard and did my best at every task given to me. Eventually, my dedication was recognized, and I was entrusted with administrative work as well. As I diligently took on my new responsibilities, Mr. Anderson unexpectedly approached me. "How about trying sales?" "Huh? Are you sure? With your enthusiasm, I'm sure you'll do just fine. Give it a shot." And so, I was given the opportunity to work in sales. I was 20 years old when I officially became a sales representative. Of course, I didn't master everything right away. Still, I relied on the boldness that Mr. Anderson had recognized in me and kept pushing forward, making sales calls over and over again. Eventually, my struggling sales numbers began to rise. Seeing my own progress was incredibly rewarding, and I threw myself even more into my work. During this time, I met a woman. Her name was Emily. She is a woman working in the accounting department, but in fact, she was my classmate in middle school. Since the headquarters is a large building, employees from different departments don't often run into each other. So even when I caught a glimpse of her, I only thought it was a coincidence. But during a casual conversation, I found out that she was my former classmate, and I was shocked. I never thought I'd see Kevin working here. I was scouted by Mr. Anderson. Really? I was scouted by him too. Apparently, Mr. Anderson has a habit of scouting students who work diligently at their part-time jobs. Later, when I asked him about it, he told me that many young people with great potential are forced to take part-time jobs due to personal circumstances. To ensure that their talents aren't wasted, he actively reaches out to them. That's why he reached out to both Emily and me. I'm truly grateful to him for that. Good morning, Emily. Good morning, Kevin. Since reconnecting at work, I became close with Emily. Having gone to the same middle school and sharing common memories made conversations easy. I continued working in sales. As I kept putting in the effort, my sales performance improved significantly. Eventually, I became one of the top salespeople in the company. Recognizing my achievements, I was promoted to section chief. Before long, rumors started circulating that I might become the youngest department manager in company history. And then, at the age of 27, Mr. Anderson called me in. "I want you to take over as president in the future." What? I was stunned by the unexpected offer. Sure, my sales numbers were high. But for him to suggest such a thing to an employee still in his late 20s, was he serious? Seeing my shock, he explained his reasoning. "Your dedication to your work is something I don't see in others. You also have a strong willingness to learn. After you take over as president, I will step into the chairman's role and support you. It may be overwhelming at first, but you'll get used to it. So, will you accept?" All right. I wondered if I was truly fit for the role, but I was confident in my achievements. And if I kept gaining experience, I would undoubtedly become the most knowledgeable person about this company. So, I decided to accept the position. From there, my promotions continued, first as the youngest department manager, then division director, and later, executive director. A year after becoming an executive director, Mr. Anderson stepped down and became chairman. At 33 years old, I officially took over as president. 2 years have passed since then. I've grown accustomed to my role as president. Then, one day, some news arrived. There's an invitation for a class reunion. Really? Emily handed me the letter that had arrived at our home. It was an announcement for a middle school class reunion. In fact, before I took over as president, I had grown closer to Emily, and we got married. Now, she works as my secretary, supporting me in running the company. Anderson Holdings is primarily managed by the two of us, with guidance from the chairman, Mr. Anderson. I read through the class reunion invitation. The date seemed convenient enough. Of course, there was always a chance that work could interfere, but as the president, it was an everyday reality. Should we go? Might as well, it's a good opportunity. There were some unpleasant memories, but most of my friends had been kind to me. The truth was, there were many people I wanted to see again. However, Emily seemed concerned about something. Ryan might be there. Yeah, that's true. Ryan, the guy who tormented me in middle school, could very well show up. That was something we had to be prepared for. Apparently, he's now the president of a company called Carter Foods. Given his arrogant nature, though, it's hard to say that his business is doing well. Well, maybe he's changed after all these years. I could never forget the way he harassed me. But it's been 20 years. I wanted to believe that he had mellowed out. And if things go south, I've got a trump card. Really? Well, if that's the case, I guess it's fine. Yeah. Hopefully, I won't have to use it. Let's just hope he's turned over a new leaf. With that, we decided to attend the reunion together and sent our RSVP. In the days leading up to the reunion, we prepared our outfits and made the necessary arrangements. I also had to adjust my schedule to ensure that no unexpected work obligations would interfere. However, as the president of a company, things rarely go as planned. On the day of the reunion, I had to apologize to Emily. A last-minute meeting had been scheduled out of nowhere. Sorry, Emily. Looks like I'll have to be late to the reunion. A project meeting had landed right on the same day. Since the project was still in its early stages, I had to be involved in setting its direction. Fortunately, the meeting would be held remotely, so I could attend from home. It was more convenient than going to the office, but it still meant I'd be late. Depending on how things went, I might be able to attend the reunion for an hour at best. I understand. It can't be helped. Emily was always understanding when work interfered. I know you were looking forward to it. It's okay. If I don't take care of this, it'll cause trouble for everyone at the company. I felt bad. She had probably been excited to go with me. But this was an important nationwide project. As the president, I had no choice but to be involved. When the time for the meeting arrived, Emily had already left for the reunion by taxi. Hoping she'd have a great time, I began the meeting. Well then, Michael, I look forward to working with you today. Likewise, Mr. Johnson. I exchanged greetings with Michael, the representative from the other company. He was a department manager on their side and had been entrusted with overseeing this project. Every time we spoke, he demonstrated a sincerity and competence that made me eager to collaborate with him. His presence was a big reason why I wanted to push forward with this project. About this food product. Yes, regarding the supply chain on our end. We exchanged ideas, discussed the current status, and worked through various issues for an hour. Then, out of nowhere, I heard the sound of my front door opening. I turned around, wondering what had happened. Standing at the entrance was Emily. And she was completely soaked. Emily, is something wrong? No, it's just... Had she walked all the way home in that state? More importantly, What on earth had happened to her? I couldn't just leave my wife like this. I'm sorry, but I'll have to wrap up today's meeting here. Hearing the seriousness in my voice, my business partner seemed to understand that something urgent was going on. Understood. I'll follow up later regarding the schedule. Thank you. I appreciate it. I ended the video call and rushed over to Emily. Emily, what happened? She was crying. She had gone to the reunion. It was supposed to be a fun event, so what had happened? Then, in a trembling voice, she said, "They threw beer on me and told me to go home because I was a fat, ugly high school dropout." The words were vile. Who had hurled such cruel insults at her? Emily continued, her voice shaking. It was Ryan. Ryan? The very classmate she had been worried about before leaving for the reunion. I had thought that maybe he had matured over the years, but clearly, that wasn't the case. He's still pulling the same childish bullying tactics. Emily gave a small nod. Anger toward Ryan was bubbling up inside me. It's okay, Emily. I had anticipated the possibility of Ryan attending the reunion. And I had already prepared for the worst-case scenario. This was my last resort, but given what had just happened to Emily, I wasn't going to hold back. I called Ryan. He picked up immediately. Given my position, it was only natural that he would respond quickly. Well, Mr. Johnson. What brings you to call me at this hour? The $600 million project is off, Mr. Carter. I could hear the moment of shock in his silence. Then, in a panicked tone, he said, "Wait, the $600 million project? You mean the one with Anderson Holdings?" It didn't take him long to realize what I was talking about. Anderson Holdings and Carter Foods had been working on a major joint project. The very project I had been discussing with Michael earlier. If Ryan caused trouble at the reunion, I had already decided that I would pull the plug on the project. A project worth $600 million. While no money had officially changed hands yet, we had already made significant progress in our negotiations. That's why Ryan struggled to process what I had just told him. Wait, canceling the project? Why? What do you mean, why? Do you even realize what you've done? I don't know what you're talking about. Surely, this must be some kind of mistake. He genuinely seemed clueless about why I was canceling the project. It hadn't even crossed his mind that he was the cause. He felt absolutely no guilt for what he had done. I laid out the truth for him. It seems you decided to throw beer on my wife. What? There was a brief silence as Ryan processed my words. Then, suddenly, he seemed to recall something and let out a stuttering groan. Wait, that woman was your wife, Mr. Johnson. That's right. For the record, he still didn't know that I was also the president of Anderson Holdings. He only knew me as the president from the business negotiations. Hearing my cold tone, he started scrambling for an excuse. Well, you see, it was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. You think it's acceptable to pour beer on someone just because of a spur-of-the-moment decision? I pressed him hard, and he was clearly rattled. So, as I said, the $600 million project is off. You'll have to find another partner. Wait. If we lose that project, my company will be in serious trouble. Carter Foods was already struggling. They had staked their entire future on this project with us. But now, I was pulling the plug. This would be a devastating blow to them. Please reconsider. If this project collapsed before it even started, Carter Foods could very well go bankrupt. But why should I show Ryan any mercy? Reconsider? Why would I do that? I was furious. Not just because Ryan had failed to grow as a person in the past 20 years, but also because he had humiliated my wife and thrown beer on her at the reunion. How could I possibly forgive such despicable actions? That's all I have to say. Wait. Mr. Johnson. Let's talk this through. Ryan was still desperate, but I didn't care. I hung up the phone. Because I spoke with an intensity one rarely showed, Emily stared at me in shock. She had never seen me this angry before, not since I started my career. I turned to her and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Are you okay, Emily?" "Yeah. I'm okay." Then, in a small, trembling voice, she whispered, "Thank you." She probably hadn't expected me to get this upset on her behalf. But as her husband, this was only natural. "You don't need to thank me." I had already decided that if Ryan caused trouble, I'd use this project as leverage. We don't need Carter Foods for this deal, anyway. There were plenty of other companies eager to partner with Anderson Holdings on this project. The only reason we had chosen Carter Foods was because of Michael. He was a reliable, trustworthy man, and I felt bad for abruptly cutting the project. I'd have to apologize to him later. But no matter what, Ryan's arrogance could not be tolerated. I would have to find another business partner. As I thought about what lay ahead, Emily took a shower and changed into fresh clothes. With Ryan there, she probably had no intention of returning to the reunion. I had no desire to go either. I wasn't about to give Ryan a chance to make excuses. We could always attend a future reunion instead. Cheers! Cheers! Dressed in our comfortable home clothes, we clinked our cocktail glasses together. As she took a sip, Emily smiled. Then, she said something unexpected. "You saved me like this before, too." "Huh? I grew up in a single-mother household, remember? So Ryan used to pick on me back then, too." Emily had indeed been raised by a single mother. Unlike me, though, her parents had divorced. She had attended high school for a while. However, due to financial difficulties, she had to drop out and start working. Since she and Ryan had gone to the same high school, he had known about her situation. After dropping out, she found a job at a restaurant where she eventually met Mr. Anderson, just like I had. As I recalled her past, Emily spoke again. "You stood up for me when Ryan was harassing me." "What? You don't remember?" She pouted slightly. Hearing that, I searched my memories, and then it hit me. I hadn't always been Ryan's target. His bullying had turned toward me only after I had defended Emily. "Stop it. What's it to you? She hasn't done anything wrong." In my memory, all that remained was the fact that Ryan had bullied me. I had completely forgotten the events that led up to it. But Emily had never forgotten that I had helped her. That's probably why, when she realized we were working at the same company, she reached out to me. "You haven't changed, Kevin." She blushed slightly and smiled. I realized that, perhaps, she had started having feelings for me back when I stood up for her. And now that we were married, it felt as if I was witnessing that moment all over again. The difference between then and now was that I had power. That was why I had been able to protect her this time. Seeing her smiling like that made me feel a little embarrassed, and I scratched my cheek. At the same time, I felt happy, like our bond had deepened even more. The next day, I returned to work as president. As expected, the $600 million project with Carter Foods was officially scrapped. "I'm sorry, Michael." "No, I understand. This is Mr. Carter's own doing. If anything, I should be the one apologizing." Michael gave a wry smile. "To be honest, his arrogance has been a problem for us too. Maybe this will be a wake-up call for him." "Oh? Is that so?" "Yes." I was relieved that he understood. I had worried that Michael might be upset, but hearing his response reassured me. "Actually, I'm planning to leave Carter Foods soon." "Oh? Really?" "Yes. Now that the project has fallen through, there's no reason for me to stay. Besides, dealing with Mr. Carter's arrogance has been exhausting. It seemed Ryan had been treating his own employees with the same arrogance. I couldn't help but chuckle at what a terrible leader he was. so I made him an offer. In that case, why don't you come work for us? Are you serious? I'd be glad to have a dedicated and honest employee like you. Think about it. Thank you. I'll definitely give it serious consideration. Michael's response was enthusiastic. Of course, the final decision was his, but I would be happy to work with him again in the future. The project had been scrapped once, but we were already close to securing a new partner. The reunion had turned into a mess, but everything else was moving forward smoothly. However, just when things seemed peaceful, trouble arrived unexpectedly. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Carter is here. I never expected Ryan to show up at Anderson Holdings headquarters unannounced. His sheer audacity left me exasperated. He's been demanding to see you. We had already found another company to partner with. There was no reason to engage with him anymore. But Ryan had staked his entire company's future on that $600 million project. Without it, he likely had no way to keep his business afloat. Still, letting him continue making a scene here wouldn't help anyone. I decided to hear him out. Mr. Johnson. What do you want, Ryan? I told you the project is off. I stepped out to meet him. The moment he saw me, his eyes widened in shock. You? Kevin. Oh? You hadn't realized? His entire body stiffened. He didn't realize that I, my wife's husband, and the president of Anderson Holdings were the same person he used to bully back in middle school. He probably thought I had been holding a grudge since middle school. But instead of apologizing, he immediately became desperate and combative. If you cancel that project, do you even understand what will happen? Oh? And what will happen? My company could go bankrupt. Did he really think that was a valid threat? I sighed, exasperated by his pathetic attempt at intimidation. If your company's survival depended on this deal, then you should have been more careful about how you conducted yourself. You were the one who betrayed us by throwing beer on my wife. We were fully committed to the project, and if not for your actions, we would have seen it through to the end. That's because I didn't know Emily is your wife. He kept making excuses, refusing to take responsibility for his actions. How could anyone trust a company run by a man like this? Ryan stomped his foot in frustration. Damn it, just restart the project with us. Unfortunately, we've already chosen a new partner. Carter Foods is no longer in consideration. Don't screw with me. If my company goes under, how do you plan to take responsibility? No matter what I said, Ryan kept shouting. Maybe he had no intention of leaving until I agreed to restart the project with Carter Foods. How could I get him out of here? As I was thinking, an unexpected person arrived. Mr. Carter. Emily. What do you want? Emily had appeared in front of us. I had asked her to wait in the office, but it seemed she had decided to come here instead. I had worried that she might be afraid of Ryan, but that wasn't the case. Why have you come here? Obviously, to restart the project. And you have the audacity to say that? What? You tormented us in middle school, and even as an adult, you continue with these disgusting antics. Emily finally let out everything she had been holding back. At the reunion, she had been too overwhelmed to respond. But deep down, she must have had countless things she wanted to say. She had suffered at Ryan's hands both as a child and again just a few days ago. There is no way we will ever restart a project with someone like you. Now, leave. Damn it. Emily's fierce expression and sharp gaze were enough to make Ryan finally feel intimidated. I even considered calling the police if he insisted on staying at the company, but in the end, he tucked his tail between his legs and ran away. Emily and I exchanged glances. She seemed relieved to have finally been able to stand up to Ryan. In the end, Carter Foods went bankrupt. Despite the company's poor financial situation, Ryan had staked everything on a project with our company. However, his terrible attitude ultimately led to its downfall. It was entirely his own fault, and even the employees of Carter Foods were apparently fed up with him. Unwilling to give up his status as a company president, Ryan tried to start a new business, but as expected, he failed. Burdened with massive debt, he now barely scrapes by working part-time at a convenience store. Meanwhile, I've been busy managing Anderson Holdings alongside Emily. By the way, Michael resigned from his previous job and has now joined us at Anderson Holdings. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. It's all good. In fact, I'm happy to be working with you from now on. Looking forward to it. The group's management is running smoothly. Both Emily and I only graduated from middle school. But looking at how well Anderson Holdings is thriving, no one would think our academic backgrounds mattered. More than education, it's the years of experience we've built here and our passion for the job that have driven our success. Mr. Johnson, could you review this document? Thanks, Emily. We exchanged smiles. Seeing how well we were handling things, Mr. Anderson seemed at ease in trusting us with the company. At this pace, I want to continue leading the company as president, working side by side with Emily.